There are things that genuinely worry people these days, these sort of creeping threats, especially around democracy, privacy.
Yeah, the foundations feel a bit shaky sometimes.
Exactly. And when you hear about potential compromises, security breaches involving government data, you really need to understand what's going on.
And that's exactly what we're doing today. We're taking a deep dive into this really concerning situation unfolding at the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB.
Ah, the NLRB.
Yeah, and it involves this group called DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency.
DOGE. Okay. Sounds harmless enough, right?
Yeah.
Like efficiency, government.
Well, that's the thing. The name sounds benign, maybe a bit bureaucratic, but the story that's emerged, largely thanks to a whistleblower, Daniel Berulis, it paints a very different picture.
A whistleblower. Okay, tell me about him. What's his role?
So Daniel Berulis, he's a DevSecOps architect there. His job is basically securing their digital systems. And, this isn't just some random employee complaining. He's got serious credentials, top secret clearance, experience in other sensitive government spots. So when he raises concerns about a cybersecurity breach, people should listen.
Definitely. And his concern is specifically about this DOGE group.
Yeah.
That their activity led to a breach.
Precisely. He believes their actions opened the door, potentially exposing sensitive government information. And not just exposing it, but possibly to foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence. Wow. Okay, that raises the stakes considerably. Is this just his word, or is there documentation?
Oh, there's documentation. Whistleblower Aid, the group representing him, sent a letter to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and the Office of Special Counsel.
Okay.
And they included, supporting documents, his sworn declarations, screenshots of technical data, evidence to back up these serious claims.
So what's the core allegation then? Data getting out?
Yeah, the main claim is data exfiltration. Information being pulled from NLRB systems and sent to, unknown servers. Could be inside the U.S., could be abroad. They don't know for sure where it went.
Unknown servers. That's unsettling.
And the foreign intelligence link, where does that come in?
This is where it gets really quite alarming. Berulis reported seeing near real-time login attempts originating from Russia.
From Russia?
Yes, using these brand new DOGE accounts. We're talking accounts created, and then minutes later, attempts to log in using those exact credentials coming from Russia.
Minutes later. That's speed. That suggests coordination, doesn't it? Or at least very rapid exploitation.
It's incredibly suspicious. He documented over 20 attempts, specifically from an IP address in Primorsky Krai, Russia.
And did they get in?
Thankfully, no. The attempts used the correct username and password.
They had the right credentials.
Apparently, yes. But they were blocked by the NLRB's policy of not allowing logins from outside the country. A basic security measure, but it seems like it was the only thing stopping them.
Wow, so a policy saved them there. But data did get out at some point.
That's the other part of the allegation. Around March 7th, Berulis observed about 10 gigabytes of data being exfiltrated. 10 gigabytes.
Yeah.
That's substantial. Do we know what kind of data?
The exact content isn't clear from the reports, but given what the NLRB handles, it's worrying regardless. 10 gigs is a lot of potentially sensitive information.
And Berulis thinks this wasn't just like an external hack. He suspects an inside element.
His assessment, based on the patterns he saw, pointed towards a data breach that was facilitated by someone internal. Someone who then tried to cover their tracks, deleting records, hiding where the data went.
Okay, so let's talk about that data. What exactly does the NLRB have that would be so valuable or so damaging if it got out?
Well, think about it. The NLRB oversees union elections, investigates unfair labor practices. They hold incredibly sensitive information.
Like what specifically?
Details on unions, strategies, internal disputes, confidential information about ongoing legal cases, which often includes corporate secrets provided during investigations.
Okay, corporate secrets, that's big.
Huge. And also, crucially, personally identifiable information, PII, for potentially thousands of people. Claimants, respondents in cases, names, addresses, maybe more. Plus, confidential business info that companies are required to submit. None of this is meant for public eyes.
Right, so getting access to that, it's not just a privacy nightmare for individuals. It could give foreign entities, or frankly anyone, major economic or strategic leverage.
Absolutely. It could impact individuals, companies, union negotiations. The potential fallout is massive.
So how did this group, DOGE, even get involved? Did they just show up one day?
It sounds almost like that, actually. Berulis described their arrival in early March 2025 as unusual, black SUV, police escort.
Police escort. For an efficiency review.
Exactly. And they apparently had very limited interaction with the regular NLRB IT staff, kind of walled off from the start.
And the way they got access, you mentioned standard procedures weren't followed.
Right. The IT team, specifically the assistant CIO, was reportedly told not to follow standard operating procedure for creating their accounts. No logs, no records.
No paper trail, basically.
Essentially, yes. Which, immediately makes you wonder why. It hampers any kind of oversight or investigation later on. It's like they wanted to operate in the dark.
And the level of access they got, you said it was unusually high?
Extremely high. The disclosure mentions highest level of access and unrestricted access. Specifically, they were given tenant owner accounts in the Microsoft Azure system.
Tenant owner. What does that actually mean for, like, a non-tech person?
Think of it as having the super admin keys to the entire digital building. They could read, copy, delete, change anything. Berulis noted their permissions exceeded even those of the agency's chief information officer.
Higher than the CIO.
Yes. And apparently the IT staff suggested maybe they should use standard auditor accounts, with limited read-only permissions, which is typical for reviews like this.
That sounds sensible.
But that suggestion was rejected. They insisted on this top-tier, all-powerful access.
And the IT staff were just told to step aside.
Pretty much. The directive was apparently give DOGE whatever accounts they ask for, stay out of their way, don't resist, don't deny them anything.
That sounds less like oversight and more like a takeover. It really raises questions about who's watching the watchers,
It absolutely does. And the weirdness didn't stop there. Berulis also reported other suspicious technical activities.
Like what?
The creation of a new sort of opaque virtual node container.
Opaque virtual node. Can you translate that?
Yeah, it's like setting up a hidden virtual computer inside their network. It could run programs, do things without leaving obvious traces for the normal security monitoring to see. Operating in the shadows, essentially.
Okay, so hard to track.
What else? Digital tokens used for access were configured to expire really quickly after use. Makes it very hard to go back later and figure out exactly what actions were taken using those tokens.
Again, hindering investigation.
Exactly. And then there were undocumented changes to security policies. Access policies changed on March 6th. No paperwork, no approval trail. Microsoft Purview controls for mobile device access.
Right.
Disabled on March 10th.
Just turned off.
Seemingly, all these little changes chip away at the standard security posture right when this group has super user access.
And you mentioned data going to an unknown endpoint.
Yes. Data observed being sent out to somewhere external, but with no connection logs available to see where external actually was.
No logs again. Convenient.
And then these spikes in billing for data storage use related to specific projects that then, poof, disappeared from the system.
So activity happens, costs go up, then the evidence vanishes.
That's what it looks like. It fits Berulis' assessment, data being moved or copied, and then an active effort to clean up the evidence afterwards.
This is it. It's deeply concerning. The potential vulnerability here is just staggering. But then there's the human cost. What happened to Berulis after he started raising these flags?
This part is, as Whistleblower Aid described it, absolutely disturbing. And it really hits home when you think about the risks people take to expose potential wrongdoing.
What happened?
On April 7th, he found a note taped to the front door of his home.
At his house.
Yes. And this wasn't just some vague threat. The note included drone photographs of him in his neighborhood, walking around.
Drone photos. Oh my God, that's overt surveillance, intimidation.
Extremely overt. And the note itself apparently made it clear it was about the whistleblower disclosure he was putting together.
So a direct link.
Yeah.
They knew he was preparing to report this, and they threatened him at his home using surveillance photos.
Yes. And Whistleblower Aid raised the possibility that whoever did this might have had access to NLRB systems, connecting the threat directly back to the situation he was exposing.
That is genuinely chilling. The idea that someone inside or connected could use their access not just for data theft, but for physical intimidation.
It is. And remember, this threat came after he had already been told internally around April 3rd or 4th to drop his investigation.
He was told to stop looking into it.
Yes. Stop the investigation. Don't report his concerns about the breach to U.S. CERT, the main cybersecurity incident responders for the government. Just drop it.
So they tried to shut him down internally first. And when he persisted, the threat appeared at his home.
That seems to be the sequence of events, yes. It raises profound questions about obstruction and, frankly, the safety of whistleblowers in sensitive positions. Who else sees things but stays quiet out of fear?
Exactly. It has a massive chilling effect. So what's the official line from the NLRB on all this? Have they responded to these incredibly serious allegations?
Well, the official response, through a spokesperson, is denial. They state that an internal investigation was done and it found no evidence of any breach.
They're saying nothing happened, despite Berulis' detailed account and technical evidence.
That's the official stance, a flat denial, which of course stands in stark contrast to the whistleblower's claims.
Is anyone else looking into this? Congress.
Yes, thankfully. Representative Jerry Connolly, who chairs the subcommittee overseeing the federal workforce, has stepped in.
Okay, good.
He sent a letter urging the inspectors general at both the NLRB and the Department of Labor because DOGE apparently operated there too to launch investigations.
What are Connolly's specific concerns?
He explicitly mentioned the potential for technological malfeasance and illegal activity by DOGE employees. He wants a full report on what DOGE did, any data exfiltration attempts, any attempts to hide their tracks.
He's taking it seriously then.
Very seriously.
Hmm?
And he also flags something else potentially explosive, the Elon Musk connection.
Elon Musk. How does he fit into this?
Well, according to Connolly's letter and other reporting, Musk has a role, perhaps advisory or leadership, within DOGE.
Okay.
And Connolly pointed out the massive potential conflict of interest because Musk's companies like Tesla and SpaceX are currently facing enforcement actions from both the NLRB and the Department of Labor.
Wait, so the guy potentially connected to the group getting super user access, his companies are actively being investigated or sued by those same agencies.
That's the conflict Connolly highlighted, the potential for someone with that kind of personal and financial interest having oversight or influence over a group with unrestricted access inside those agencies. It raises huge ethical red flags.
Yeah, that's more than a red flag. That's a potential abuse of power scenario right there. Access to non-public case information, strategic insights.
Exactly the concern. Could sensitive information be used to benefit companies facing regulatory action? It strikes at the heart of fair process.
And this isn't the first time DOGE's access has been controversial, is it? I feel like I've heard about this group before.
You likely have. There have been previous lawsuits challenging DOGE's broad access to government systems.
Right.
One lawsuit, I recall, actually described the potential scope as the largest and most consequential data breach in U.S. history, just based on the level of access granted across agencies.
Wow. And what happened with those lawsuits?
The results have been mixed. In fact, there was a recent appeals court ruling that actually allowed DOGE to maintain access to personal data held by the Department of Education and the Office of Personnel Management, OPM.
So the courts haven't fully shut down this kind of broad access then?
It seems not, at least not consistently, which just underscores the ongoing debate and concern about this group's activities and the risks involved.
And back at the NLRB, it wasn't just Berulis who thought something was wrong, right? You mentioned an assistant CIO.
That's a key point. An assistant CIO for security initially concluded that what Berulis found should be reported as a breach to U.S. CERT. This wasn't just one guy's opinion. A security leader agreed.
Okay, so standard procedure was about to be followed.
It seemed like it. A formal review started. Berulis provided his evidence showing what they believed was a serious ongoing security breach.
And
then, around early April, came that instruction we mentioned earlier. Drop the U.S. CERT reporting and investigation, and explicitly do not create an official report.
just make it go away.
That appears to be the message, which looks awfully like suppressing information, obstructing standard security protocols. You have to ask why. Why stop the reporting of a potential major breach involving foreign login attempts?
So let's try to synthesize this. We've got these really serious allegations. A major data breach at a sensitive agency, the NLRB.
Right, involving potentially sensitive union, corporate, and personal data.
Then there's this group, DOGE, getting unprecedented, unrestricted access, bypassing normal security checks.
With their accounts apparently being used for login attempts from Russia almost immediately.
And the whistleblower, Daniel Berulis, who flags all this. He's told to stop investigating, don't report it, and then faces this incredibly direct personal threat involving drone surveillance at his home.
And clear signs that someone tried to cover up the data exfiltration and prevent official reporting.
It paints an incredibly disturbing picture. The implications here, they feel huge.
They really are. It touches on national security because of the potential foreign access. It hits individual privacy, given the PII involved. It impacts the integrity of government processes, especially concerning labor and commerce. And it highlights the immense pressure and danger facing whistleblowers.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Mm.
What does it say about accountability, about oversight in our government, when someone who brings forward critical security concerns faces not just stonewalling, but active threats?
It's deeply troubling.
And maybe the bigger question we should all be asking is, what is the full scope of DOGE's activities across the government? What kind of access do they have elsewhere? Who is overseeing them? Especially when you factor in these potential conflicts of interest, it feels like there are many more questions than answers right now.